Welcome everybody, I am Sandra McEwen and this is going to be the first of what I hope to be many step-by-step tutorials. And this being the first one, I thought I would keep things very simple, at least for me. So this is going to be a beginning level tutorial, straight up cloisonné, and we're going to make a little pendant and it's going to be super fun. So I encourage you, if you've never done cloisonné and you have some tools available to you, that maybe this could be something that you could follow along with. But anyway, so just getting started, I was just doing some little sketches of like, why not draw a lot of little things? So these are all very rough sketches and I kind of decided that I liked this little turtle. So I think that's what we're gonna make. And so this was just kind of like a real quick sketch that I did. I wasn't really, being pretty particular, was just kind of getting it down, getting the idea down. And so once I decided that this was the piece I wanted to do, I did a nicer drawing of it. I took this and I got a good shape and I did, this is a really nice shape that I'm going to be using, and I drew it out. I decided this is going to be a circle just because I kind of like it. So it's an abstract turtle and it's a sea turtle, I guess, because it's going to be in the ocean. And it's going to be a very simple pendant. And it's going to have just a hole that we're going to put a bail in. That is how simple this pendant is going to be. And I know maybe if you've not done a lot of wire work, these wires look pretty complicated, but you're always welcome to simplify. And I'm going to be here every step. I've got some ideas for how to make these wires. So anyway, I've made my black and white sketch. And then the next thing that I had to do was kind of figure out what colors I wanted to do. So let's figure out what that was. Here comes the next thing. And you can see here, it's all very exciting. I have done a beautiful colored pencil sketch. And when I'm working on the colored pencils, I don't have any of these samples in front of me because I don't want to be kind of hindered by a particular sample. I draw what I like and then I can see if I can find a color that would match it. And so I did this drawing. He's going to be all green, and obviously this is going to have a beautiful blue background. And so, of course, me being me, I like a lot of color options, so I've picked five shades of green for his little turtle body, and why not 5 shades of blue for the background. And I'll show you exactly my idea for the background. It's going to be kind of starting with this blue. We'll do lots of shading. We're going to do gold leaf here and silver leaf on the body of the turtle, which we'll get to very, very soon. The first step of our project is going to be getting our base ready for enameling. And you can see that this is just a regular piece of fine silver, 22 gauge. And I want to add a little bit of texture to it. We're going to have gold leaf here and a little bit of silver leaf, but around this whole area it'd be really nice to look straight through those beautiful transparent enamels to see a lovely texture. And there are lots of different ways you can add texture to the silver. You can hammer it, you can engrave it, you can dry point it, but we're going to go ahead and roll it through a rolling mill with a texture plate. And I've chosen this texture plate because I like all the little undulations. And this is just a brass texture plate. I believe I bought this one from metalliferous.com, but I'm sure that Rio sells them. And there are so many different kinds of texture plates. It's all very exciting. You'll go down a rabbit hole looking at these texture plates. So anyway, let's go to the rolling mill and get this texture put onto this piece of silver. Welcome to my rolling mill. This is a really nice rolling mill. For many years I had kind of a cheap rolling mill and it worked just fine. And then I had the opportunity to get this lovely Durnston rolling mill and I love it. So let's see if we can get in a good spot so you can see what's going on. There we go. This is the area that we're going to be working in. And what I have is I have my texture plate right there. And I have a piece of, this is just a little bit of manila envelope, and I'm gonna put it in like that. And I have my piece of silver as well. And it doesn't really matter so much exactly the placement of the texture for this project. So I'm just gonna kind of stick it like that. And then I'm gonna open up the rolling mill and kind of stick it in. Just get it so it's like right in. And then I'm gonna give it, if you had a little caliper thing, you could move it about 10 points, a little bit more. and then you're going to roll it through. Just going to hold it really well, and then just stick it through like that, and there we go, and reach around to the other side. All right, and let us have a look and see if we have a nice texture. Oh, and look at that, a beautifully rolled texture that we're gonna go. Lovely. Well, you can see this is a really beautiful texture. I'm very pleased with it. And this step is definitely optional. If you don't have access to a rolling mill, you could just do a little hammer. If you grab a little hammer and just hammer lots of little dots on there, that's a really nice texture. Or, you can just scribe some things on. It's a really soft metal, so it's really easy to add texture. So anyway, we have this ready to go, and I want to cut this shape right here, and I want to do a really nice job because we're not really doing a different setting. I want to make sure that I get my shape just right. So I have this little one that I've printed out, and I'll have one available for you to print out as well. And I'm just going to use a little rubber cement and rubber cement right there, and we're just going to stick it on there. So you could trace it, but this is just a hair more accurate. But don't worry, I'm going to give you like an easy man's way out of cutting this. We're not actually going to saw this little guy. So I'm just going to stick him on there like that, let him dry for a moment, and yeah, we have lots of extra. So maybe I'll make a little, that's enough to make 2 little pairs of earrings later. So nothing will go to waste. So we have this, it's pretty dry. Right like that. And you could saw this out, but because this is a beginning course, see, look, I'm giving you the easy man's way out. We're actually going to cut these out with a pair of Fiskars, and these are just, you get them at the regular craft store. They're nothing fancy, but they're good for cutting this metal out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow along and see if I can do this. And we're going to do a little bit of, there we go. We'll do a little sanding of the edge. But the more accurate you can be when you cut this piece out. And just, there we go. And we get this little piece of silver there. If that ends up on the floor, oh, I've stepped on those. They go right into your feet. And you could have just snipped this off. In fact, maybe I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut this straight across. And then we'll have that nice piece. See if I can get all the way through. There we go. Don't spend a lot on these, although these have lasted me about a year, so I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of them. And so let's just continue on with our lovely, I know, cutting it out with scissors. It's crazy town. But very satisfying. There we go. Alrighty, and we have these little guys, which are going to be scrap. We can save those, send them in, and then we'll save this for another project. I think I can think of something right now to do with that. And let's just peel this paper off and clean it up. And then we have this, but we're going to do a little bit of sanding around the edges, and then we'll do the next step. But that is cutting out our shape. And so you can see, look, we're getting a lot closer. This is going to be a really nice little background there. So there we have that shape. The next step is we are just going to sand the edges and smooth. See, we kind of have like a little rough edge right there. I'm going to smooth that out because this is the actual shape of our piece. We're not going to be doing a setting. So I want to, just finesse this a little bit. And so I'm going to be using this little sanding drum right here attached to my Fordham. And I have water just offside. I always do everything with water just because everything gets so hot. So I like to do all my sanding wet. And I'm just going to start by smoothing that edge. closer. There we go. Maybe I'm going to do a little bit more over here. There we go. All right, that looks real good. I am pleased with this shape, and so I believe that the next thing that we're going to do is, because we're going to put a bail through here, we need to drill a little hole where the bail is going to go. And we want to do that before we do any kind of doming, because it'll be easier to drill. So I've marked where I'm going to put my little hole for the bail to go through. And to drill that hole, I'm just going to give it a little starter hole by just tapping it with a little punch, just to give something to hold on to. And then I'm going to, you can use a little piece of wood. This is just a scrap piece of plastic that I have, plexiglass, but you can use a little piece of wood or any little thing. And I am going to use a size 52 drill right here. This is a really good size. Look, wear safety glasses. Good advice, indeed. Size 52 is really great. It pretty much fits all the standard bails that you could go through there. It also is a good size for ear wires, so I use these for any time I'm going to do a hole that's going to have an ear wire or a bail go through. And 1.61 millimeters. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I've got that in my rotary tool, and let's get a little wax first, and let's just go ahead and drill that hole. There we go. And that is going to be a nice place for our bail. The last step that we're going to do before we do any enameling on this bail is I'm going to give it, see how it's pretty flat. I don't want it to be flat. I don't want it to be really hugely round, but I want it to have a nice little shape, and that's going to give it a little bit of extra structure and also visual appeal. It's going to want to bend in the kiln anyway, so we might as well give it some direction as to how we want it to bend. And so I'm going to go ahead and use a little, this is just a little wooden dapping block, and they come in like so many different shapes and sizes. And so I'm going to go ahead and put it face down in the dapping, and then just give it a little there we go. And you can see that we might do a little bit more work on that. There we go. And that just gives it a little bit of shape. And it's almost entirely, it's going to almost feel like it's flat, but it just gives it a little bit more interest. And so that is ready for some counter enameling and wires and all the exciting stuff. So there is the creation of our base. Lovely. Now we are going to learn how to bend all our wires for this lovely design. To get started, you know, we've got our little base, so we're just going to set that aside because we don't need him for now. We'll revisit him later. And you can see that I have two pieces of paper in front of me. One has the design, and this is just a blank piece right here. I'm going to use this design to bend my wires, and then I'm going to stick them onto this one just to hold everything in place until I'm ready for it. And to do that, we're going to use a little double stick tape. It doesn't really matter the brand, but sticky is good. And I'm just going to, you know, stick the tape on my piece. It's a little cockeyed, but that's all right. There we go. And now it's nice and sticky. And you know what makes it not sticky is if you get your fingerprints all over it. So, but that can be good. If you find that the paper is way too sticky, go ahead and, you know, put some little fingerprints on there. But if you find that it's so not sticky, maybe the culprit is you touched it too many times with your fingers. So we're gonna try to avoid touching the double stick tape with our fingers. Well, as much as, look, I touched it. Oh no, I'm such a rebel. So I've got, this is ready, and I've got our design is ready to go. Very exciting. Let's talk a little bit about the tools we're going to be using. So I'm going to set this aside. The most important aspect of our wire bending is just having a really nice quality fine silver cloisonné wire. I actually made this wire myself, and I will have a tutorial on how to make your own cloisonné wire very soon, but you can also buy it from Rio Grande or Hoover Strong. Any place that you can buy precious metals will generally sell you some cloisonné wire. It comes in different thicknesses. This is just kind of my go-to. I made it using 24 gauge fine silver wire, and it is, I'm going to say it is about 1.3 millimeters tall and pretty thin. It's a nice little, neither too thin nor too thick. It is just right. So we've got our wire, and we're just going to set that aside as well. First tool in our arsenal is a really nice pair of Swanstrom flush cutters, and you can see they're called flush because on one side is straight and it will pinch on the other side. And what's really nice about these is you can do some really precision snipping. And so this is where, if you're going to only buy one really expensive piece of equipment, go ahead, well, besides the kiln and all the other things, go ahead and get yourself a nice pair of these. Love them, love them, love them. The other tools that we're going to be using, I actually have, you don't need two, but I just happen to have two pair of round nose pliers as well. The only difference between these is this one's a little bit thinner, this one's a little thicker, and so when I'm doing really tiny little things, I'm using these, and slightly larger things, I'm going to use those. So those are really nice. And what I really like about, if you're really looking for quality in a tool, you want it to spring back like this. It saves, especially when you're doing wire bending for many hours, just the little things really do add up ergonomically. So I've got two of those. And then I also have just a regular pair of chain nose pliers. And this is, here's your optional one. These, I don't even know what these are. I kind of think of them as like duckbill pliers. They're nice for like straightening really short lengths of wire, but certainly this one's optional. But you do need a nice pair of chain nose pliers. So those are our pliers. And then I just have two pairs of tweezers. I've got a little straight nose pair of tweezers and a little curves. This is for picking things up, boink, boink, boink. And this is for making tiny little, you know, very sharp bends in very thin wire. So we'll use both of these. So this is going to be very exciting. All right, so we have, oh yeah, and the other thing that we're going to be using a lot of, and you do not need, to make really good shapes, it's nice to wrap your wire around something else instead of trying to freeform it. So I have a whole bunch of these different things. Look, these are dapping punches. You don't need dapping punches. All lots of different size round things to bend my wires on. So I have those right here. I know if you don't have a dapping set, please don't buy a really expensive one just for this. We've got our design. We've got our sticky paper, which we're going to kind of keep. And the hardest thing to know is kind of where to start. So, you know, you just kind of have to dive in. I've got my wire, and see how long it is? I'm going to go ahead and cut it into about 6-inch lengths because, you know, we're never really using more than a little bit, and it just keeps it a lot more manageable. So I'm using my flush nose pliers to cut this wire into some length. So now I've got a nice little pile right here that I'm just going to set up here. And we are going to start with the most basic shape, which will be these two circles, because this is kind of the focus of all of our things. And so that's where we're going to get to our round things, and we're going to use something round to make those circles. And so I've got a nice piece of wire, and I'm going to start with the exterior. The thing about this wire is because I rolled it, it's a little bit work hardened, so it's a little springy, which I really like. I like to have a nice spring wire because it really holds its shape. It stays really smooth. It doesn't get kinky. But the drawback to that is it's very springy. So when I'm going to make this big shape, I actually need to use something much smaller because I know that when I wrap this around, it's going to relax to a larger size. All right, so I am going to make this first circle here. I'm going to wrap it around this like that, and I'm going to wrap it around 3 times because I want to make a perfect circle. So sometimes you have to make a few of them. And see how I'm really tightening it a lot, and then I'm just going to let it relax and see how big it is. Let's see. There we go. See how it relaxed to a much larger size, and I bet that's a really very close. And remember, this is, especially if this is your first project, everything is relative. Maybe his shell is going to be a little bigger, maybe it's going to be a little smaller. You get to decide. And so I'm just going to go ahead and trim this little guy. Let's see. Trim you. Oops. There we go. And because I'm trying not to mess up the circle. So, all right, so you can see I have a lovely little circle. And just like making a jump ring, see how he's kind of open like that? You can just, oh, it's the right size, perfect. You can just ever so gently, without crushing it, just like you'd close a jump ring. You can kind of do that little back and forth thing just to close it. These bigger ones don't always want to, but that's all right. Just gonna get it a little closer. There we go. Alrighty, and so it doesn't have to be perfect because we'll push it down if needed. And I'm just going to, perfect. And so we have our first piece of wire done. Let's go ahead and transfer it to our piece of sticky tape. Get that right there. And you know, I'm just really gonna eyeball it a little bit. Right there. Doink. And now he's stuck down. I'm not gonna worry, see there's a little gap right here. We'll close that when we're putting it in place. So I'm really not gonna stress out about that. There, I've closed it visually. Perfect. And look, now it's there, it's not going anywhere, so we're gonna make our second circle. Well, let us make a second circle for the interior. I'm gonna use a slightly smaller shape to wrap my wire around this time, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm just gonna roll it around a couple of times, pulling it pretty tight, you know, like I want to really cinch it. There we go. And then I'm going to let it go. See what shape we have. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm just going to go ahead and trim it there. Nice. And is a good size wire. Look at that. Alrighty, we might just need to do a little bit more trimming because did we decide that is the good shape right there. There we go. And you know what? I'm just going to set that down right there. Push it down with my fingers. There we go. Lovely. We have our perfect circles. So let's do the inside part of his shell next. Now let's go ahead and make all these lovely simple shapes that make up the decoration of his shell. And we're going to start with this major kind of a diamond shape. And I'm actually going to do it in 2 pieces. You could certainly do 4 separate little pieces, but I kind of like to have, if I can have a compound shape that's going to help hold everything else up, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So let me show, and we're also going to be making these almost similar shapes over here, so we might as well figure out how to do that. So I'm going to get a little piece of wire, and again, remember, it's going to start with a circle. I know, it's crazy. So I'm going to wrap it around, get myself a little circle. I know I got to make 2 of them, so you know what? I'm going to make 2 circles. Roll it around like that. Give it a yank. And let's just cut that right there. And so I've got 2 circular shapes here. That's lovely. And we'll start with this one. And you can kind of see that this is a nice shape for the exterior part of this. And so what we need to do is we're going to get our chain nose pliers. And I'm just going to go ahead and bend it this way. See how I'm going? Literally, like, you know, like it's like one of those little birds when you're a kid and you draw a bird. But we're going to really take it and cinch it because I want it to come to a really nice point. And so I'm going to bend it backwards like this. And then I'm going to use my fingers to kind of close it. See how I've made like this shape? And then I'm actually going to cinch that little nub. And see how I have a lovely shape that looks like a little V? Let's go ahead and see if we can fit that. We're going to open it up just a little bit, and I'm going to start right there, and I'm going to trim it here. I'm going to open it up just a little bit, just kind of yanking it open. There we go. And then I'm going to trim it right here as well. There we go. And we're going to make 2 of those because we need 1 for each side. So, but luckily, remember we have 2 of these little shapes. So we're going to take this one and do exactly the same thing. We're going to get our chain nose pliers. Let me do it over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm grabbing it and I'm bending it this way. See? Just like that. And then I'm going to reach around, close it with my fingers, boink, like that, and actually give it a little cinch. Anytime you need something to come to a fine point, your best bet is to cinch it like that. So we've got that lovely shape, and we might as well use the same thing since they're mirror images of each other. So let's go ahead and open it up. Just use your finger is the most useful tool in your arsenal. So there we go. We can see that it's set just like that. We're going to trim it exactly. It's got to fit right inside there. And let's see how we did. Let's see how we did. Let's bring our little guy. Oh, did I trim it too wrong? Oh, definitely over trimmed it a little bit. Maybe. Let's see. Close. We're real close. But you know what I'm going to do is, see how it's just a little too big? Let's go ahead and trim each of these little guys just a hair. You know, the circle is just a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to trim the 4 little corners. There we go. Let's see if that's better. And so I'm going to set him right like that. I'm feeling much better about this. This one's going to trim just another little hair. There we go. And there we go. That's looking nice. All right, so our next thing is we're going to make these little triangles right here. All right, to make these little triangles, I am going to start with, I'm going to make 2 separate little triangles. And let's just start by kind of bending one and cinching it. See, I've made like a little shape, and then I'm just going to literally close it with my fingers, cinch it, and then even, you know, give it a good press because I want that to be a really crisp edge. And then I can use my, open it back up again using my fingers. There we go. So we have this really nice little shape like that. And what I'm going to do is trim it right like here. And then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers once again. And here I'm just going to, right where that next bend is, I'm just going to bend it with my, let's just see where that is. There we go. And then I'm just going to trim it. And there we have a tiny, tiny little triangle. Look at that little tiny triangle. And we're going to put him right here. And then we need one more. Let's go ahead, make one more. Remember, we're going to start by cinching one end first. So I'm pinching it with my fingers, and then you can see I'm just going to cinch it closed. I'm going to open back up again so we get that crisp edge. And let us see where we are. All right, and also we can kind of eyeball it because we know we need to do this shape right here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this right there. And then we're going to do that last little bend using our chain nose pliers. So see how I'm just going to bend it like this. Boink. You have to make the you have to make the sound effect, or you get extra credit for the sound effect. And you can see I've made this nice little triangle here. And let's actually bring it over here and see if we need. It looks a little big for, because remember everything was just a little bit smaller. So we're going to trim it just a little bit. This is where the reality of your work is going to come in. And let's go ahead and bend this a little bit more. And then let's see if we can fit that in. Just like that. Nice. There we go. Maybe we'll trim that just a little bit. You can trim to your heart's content. There we go. Our little guy right in there. That's closed. There we go. Alrighty, so we've got our little triangles and they are lovely. So let's make 4 tiny little dots. That will be super fun because we've already made circles. I bet you even know how that's going to work. So we're going to do that next, these little circles. All right, now we're going to make these 4 little circles. And you can see I've got a tiny little drill bit that I'm going to use, and the smaller they are, the less small you have to go. So this is almost the size that I want. And I'm just going to go ahead and pretend like I'm making a bunch of jump rings. And actually I might make a few extra because I can see that I have some little dots out there. So we might as well do them all at once. And you can see I'm just wrapping it around, pulling it pretty tight. And so we need 4, we should probably make, let's see, we should probably make 6 to 8, you know, pick the good ones. So I'm just going to wrap it around, just like that. Seriously, if you were feeling productive, you could probably just sit and make a whole bunch of different size circles and just put them in a little jar, and then you would always have your beautiful circles. So you can see, just like making jump rings, nice and tight, and it relaxes just a little bit. We're gonna smooth that out, and then we're just gonna start trimming those off one at a time using our flush cutter. So I'm just gonna kind of get the end, get that out of the way. You might as well trim this one too. Boink. And let's just one at a time make a little pile of them. And don't forget, don't worry, they're gonna look like they're open jump rings, because even with these small ones, they definitely are like, they start out a little wonky, but that's okay. I'm just gonna trim, so we've got 4. Let's make a few extra. 5, 6, 7. 7's a good number. And here's where, remember our little duck build? Pliers come in really handy for closing these real tiny little circles, because they're super tiny, but you can kind of get a hold of them very gently. See, like that, how I'm holding it? And then I can just gently close that jump, just close in the jump ring. There we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all of them. Close the jump ring. There we go. And they don't have to be perfectly closed. We can push them down after we fire them, but it helps if they're mostly closed. Mostly closed is good enough for our purposes. There we go. Just have to have a little patience. There, we've got 6. I know I made 7. Oh, I see that other one over there. All right, there's that one. There's one more, and here's this last little one. Look at these little circles. There we go. 7 little circles, like Pleiades, the 7 sisters, except they're circles. Anyway, let's see if they fit. I should have tested them. Oh my goodness, that was a lucky coincidence that they fit perfectly. Always test before you make a whole bunch of them, but that's good. We'll just stick these right in there. There we go. I am liking these. There we go. There's a circle. And then these are going to go right there. Perfect. Love it, love it, love it. And these little guys, I'm not sure exactly where they're going to go. We're just going to kind of set them aside and bring them back when we're doing our background. So I'm just going to kind of set them off to the side, and we'll revisit those when we're making more bubbles. But lovely, look at that. We have our shell, and it looks lovely. So let's make the rest of his little appendages and his little face. That will be the next stop. All right, we're gonna start with his 4 little legs, and I want them to be all the same, so I'm probably gonna make them based on one, and I'm not gonna try to make this tiny little shape. I'm just gonna make 4 exact same shapes. And we are going to use another drill bit that is just about basically the size of what we want that exterior circle to be. And instead of making circles, we're actually going to make some U shapes. So we're just going to kind of start to roll that out just like this. And let's just see where we are. See how I've kind of like a nice little U shape like that. And we're going to set it. It's actually a little short. Let's go ahead and make it a little longer. Roll it a little bit more. There we go. And I'm going to straighten out that other little edge. But I'm going to trim it first. See, I'm holding it right there. I'm going to trim it. And see how it's more of like a teardrop shape right now? I mean, that's fine. But we're going to go ahead and straighten that other little side with our tweezers. We're just going to grab him and just gently open him up a little bit. So you can see that he's more of like a nice little U shape. Just like that. And trim him just a little bit more. There we go. And we're going to make 4 of those. Let's see. Let's see where that's gonna go. There we go. There's one. I'm probably, you know, when you're making a lot, I'm just gonna make the shapes and then I will finesse them at the very end. Make it take, it doesn't take as long if you can kind of just get the basic shape. And one more. These are definitely getting a little long, but that's fine, we will see. There we go, we have little feetsies, little tiny feetsies. And let's go and set this one. I think, which one did we use as the sample? I've already forgotten, whatever. Oh, it's actually almost perfect. That one's not bad at all. Just straighten this leg just a little bit. I think the same thing goes for this one. Looks perfect. And this little guy, we're gonna straighten a little bit. There we go. All right, we have our little exterior bits, and let's go ahead and get them positioned. I'll just figure these out. We can move these later. We'll just kind of, let's get our little, and our little foot. There we go. Alrighty. Pretty good. I'm sure that, where's the head gonna go? Actually, this probably can go a little like that. There we go. I think we've got room for his little head. And let us go ahead and make the exterior part of his head, because we'll make all these little triangles at the same time. We'll make the exterior part of the head next. All right, to make this head, it's very similar to making the little feet. I'm going to go ahead and just make the round part first. See how I've made like a little shape that looks like that. Let's see how close that is to his little, oh, it's not bad. And we can actually use our fingers to kind of pinch it just a little bit. See how it's just like that. And it flares out in the opposite direction. And so we're going to trim it first a little bit and then finesse that little extra bit. So trim, I'm trimming it a little long because we're going to trim it twice. And then I'm just going to get another little round thing, or maybe I'll just use the same one. And I'm just going to just gently flare out each side like that. See how I'm just gently. Let's see how that looks. Let's see how close that is. Oh, it's good. It looks real good. And now we can trim it. Now that I left a little extra because it's easier to work with if you had trimmed it right there. It's hard to get a really smooth little flare out. So that's why we trimmed it twice. But that is good. So there's our little head. There we go. And let's get him in place. Let's see, his head goes there. Oh my God, look how cute he's looking. Oh my goodness, he's getting closer. All right, let's go ahead and let's make the tail first. You know, we're doing all the little exterior. This tail is gonna be super fun, and I have an idea how we're gonna make it. We are going to start by, remember how I told you when we come to a point, you could make that as two separate little, but that'd really be tipping over. You're really close to the edge there. Let's go ahead and make that as one piece. And so with a nice crisp point like that, I'm gonna go ahead, remember, and we're just gonna fold it. And where is our pliers, and give it a nice little pinch. And before, we're gonna actually bend it before we open it up. And so let us use, let's see, maybe we'll use our round nose pliers for this and I'm gonna go kind of right in the middle, and see how I'm bending them both at the same time. We'll see where we are with that. And I'm just using that to give myself, see how it's like a little hook? Let's go ahead and open that up now that we've done it, and look at this lovely shape that we're getting. See how it's a lovely little, let's see how close, maybe it's a little bit hookier, but actually I don't mind it. So let's, oh, that looks real cute. Let's trim that up. Right, like that. And sometimes if you've got a really nice shape that doesn't quite match your drawing, go with the shape. You're never tied to the drawing. I just like how it's a little sassy there, just a little sassy. But so you can see we have this nice little tail. And let's get that tail. Where shall the tail go? Right there. Beautiful. So cute. All right, now we're gonna do all these little inside bits. We are going to start these the exact same way that we did. Remember these little shapes from inside, the little things that look like little birds? We're going to do that again for the interior of, it's nice when you kind of have the same shapes reflected throughout the drawing. I feel like it's a good design. So remember, we're going to cinch first. So it's a nice crisp little point like that. And then we're going to open it up. And then I'm going to use, see how I have it opened up just a little bit? I'm going to wrap each side in a different direction. See how I'm kind of just doing one side, and then I'm going to go to the other side. And it's kind of just making a nice little V. Like that, I'm opening it up. So see how we have a lovely little V shape. And we can see where we are with our little foot. And I can see that's beautiful. So let's go ahead and trim that up. Where did I put them? There they are. All right, let's go ahead. Right like that. And right like that. And let's see if that is the right size. For some reason I'm thinking it might be a little short, but let's find out. No, it looks just beautiful. Look at that. All right, let's make 3 more of those, and then one for a slightly larger one for the face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the 3 cinches, kind of do it more of like a production level thing. So I'm going to pinch, remember, get that. And then, was that the one I was using? I guess so. We're opening it up, making a little bird. There we go. And I'm just going to trim him. Oops. And I'm going to make 2 more before I do a final test. I'm going to go ahead and cinch this one. There we go. Get our little things. Trim him. They're all a little different, but that's all right. That one wants to open up. There we go. Trim him, set him aside, and we're going to make 1 more. That one's a little funky, but that's all right. I've decided it just gives everything a little character. So remember that we're cinching and then making our little bird wings or V's. There we go, that's a nice looking one. All right, so we've got 3 of these little guys, so let's go ahead and trim them all and then get them placed, and then we'll do the face, which is going to be fun. There's one. This one's the one that's a little funky, but you know what, we can kind of straighten that, smooth out that just a little bit. Close that one up just a little bit. Oops. And where did our, oh, here we are, over here. A little bit. There we go. All right, let's get these positioned on the papier. There we go. And if they need to be shortened a little bit, they can, but they look, oh gosh, they just look lovely. That one's a little short. I'm going to put that one there. And this one was a little... There we go. Looks real cute. And now we're going to do the same thing for his head. All right, and now we're going to make the one for his head, which is the same shape, but just a little bit longer. So we're going to cinch our little guy. And use a larger round thing because it's a slightly different thing. Making the V, just a more of a gentle V for this one. So we have that, and I'm actually gonna eyeball it on the piece just because I want it to go right to the end, and so I'm actually going to set it right like that and figure out where I need to trim it. If I could find my trimmers. But I'm not actually going to cut it right. I'm just going to mark it. See, I picked it up and then I'm going to move it over here and trim it. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This way it's going to be exactly the right size. There we go. There we go. So you have a nice little V there. And let's just put him, actually, there we go. Actually, trim it just a little bit more. Always trim just a little bit at a time, because remember, you can always trim a little more, but you can, unless you're going to make it again, you can't add any more length. So slightly less is more than there is good. One more. I know we're fussing about this little guy, but it's his head. Everyone looks at his head. So his head needs to be perfectly charming. There we go. I'm happy with that. We'll just close that. All right, now we're going to do his little eyeballs. Are we ready? And we're going to finally break out these really, really tiny little round nose pliers, and we're going to make, they're kind of like little tiny U's, the tiniest little U. And so I'm going to make the tiniest little U for each eyeball. See how it's, and at this point I'm just right on there. See how it's like going to be a little eye? I'm just going to stick it right there and trim it. Just, this is where these nice trimmers, because you can be really precise. And let's go ahead and make a second one. All right, let's make one more little eye. So remember, we're using our tiniest round nose pliers, and we're just making a tiny little U, just a tiny little U. See, just like that. And we're gonna go ahead and trim that one, and then place these little eyeballs. Trim it right there. So I have these tiny little guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and put him right there, and his other little eye goes right there. There we go. Look how cute. Alrighty, well, we have the body done, and it looks really nice. And now we're just gonna do these lovely little tendrils and We're in the home stretch here. All right, so we're going to start with a nice gentle curve. There we go. There, that's a good little place to start. And then we're going to use our round nose pliers. I'm going to start with the smaller of the round nose pliers, and I'm going to just, the first thing I'm going to do to make this curlicue is I'm going to make a tiny little hook. There we go. See, there's a little tiny hook right there. And then I'm going to just gently roll it around. And then I'm going to wrap my wires back and then bring it forward like this. See how I'm getting this shape? And so it's basically the same thing. I'm moving my pliers to the exterior and then just kind of gently making a little guy. Let's see how many we have. Let's see if that's gonna fit somewhere. I think I like it right, maybe a little bit more. I'm gonna do one more little roll. Him out of the way. And really, practice makes perfect with it. See how it got a little cinchy at the end? That's all right. There we go. And you can make, you know, sometimes it's good to make a few of them and see what they're going to be like. So that was the first one. Going to get warmed up. Let's go ahead and make a couple more. I'm not even sure we're going to use that one. It's a little wonky. But maybe we will. We'll set it right there and decide. So remember, first we're going to make a nice curve like that. So we're starting with that. And then we're going to make our little tiny niblet first, our first little niblet. So we have like a little tiny hook, which is the interior part. See, like that? And then we're going to gently wrap around and then reposition to the exterior part of the curve, and then just pull it. There we go. Oops. There we go. That one's better. And so let's see, where's this going to go? I might put him right there. And anytime we're having a wire going off the edge, straight like this, I'm going to give it a little bit of extra, like 1/8 of an inch, because I want to just roll, you know, we'll trim it after we actually get some enamel on there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it about 1/8 of an inch longer than it needs to be. Let's just make another, we'll make kind of an S-shaped one, which will be nice. We'll start by making a regular little guy. Make the little niblet, do a little thing. There we go. So this one's looking nice. All right, and so we kind of want it to be, you know, maybe like an S shape. So I'm gonna get a smaller one of these, and we'll just, you know, go the opposite direction here. See how I'm just rolling it? And now I have a lovely S shape. So let's see where that wants to be. Is that one right there? Oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of a good shape right there. But I'm actually, you know what? I don't like this one. That one's dead to me. Alrighty. Actually, I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to do something like that. Might be kind of nice. There we go. I'm going to trim that and see. There we go. maybe not. Going back to the original design. And you know, I'm gonna have it touch right like that. And I'm gonna go trim it just a little long. There we go. Went back to the original. All right, so 2 more. We're gonna make these 2 over here. So remember, this one I'm gonna start, because it has more of like a tight shape to it. So we're gonna start like that. And because that one's a little bigger, I'm actually gonna move to my slightly larger pair of round nose pliers. Make our little niblet. And then round him around. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And that one goes right here, I think. Let's trim him. And put him right. Actually, that trimmed it a little too long. There we go. You know what, even measure once, no, measure twice. Measure once, cut 52 times. There we go, I like that. There we go, nice shape. And then one more that goes like that. And then I think that'll be good. That will be good. All right. Remember, make our little niblet. Practice makes perfect with these. Don't email me saying you couldn't do it and you only tried like 5 times. Try literally 150 times. And if you don't get it by then, actually, don't email me about it. Just keep practicing. There we go, I like that. So let's trim him. And we got our little guys like that. I like that a lot. All right, and now we need to have some of these little bubbles. Remember, we'd made some earlier. It feels like 100 years ago. And I'm just going to, these are a little large, but that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and position, we'll use at least one of them, maybe 2. There we go. And let's make some smaller ones, some small little guys. And we can also, let me show you a second way. Instead of doing the really fancy thing where you go like you're making jump rings, you can also, these aren't quite as perfect, but they're a little bit more teardrop shape. But you can use your round nose pliers and make, especially when you're trying to make lots of different sizes, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a circle using my round nose pliers. See how I've made this little shape like this? And then I'm just going to trim them. And you just make them one at a time. And then you can make them all different sizes. And see how I'm just getting right in there with my little nippers? And they're a little bit more organic, but they'll do. They will do. Look how cute that is. All right, let's make a couple more. Depending on how far down, well, they'll be thicker. So this one's going to be, and you can see to make them on this, I'm actually overlapping just a hair. So we've got that. There we go. Let's see, that one can go here. And we need a couple more. I'll make a few small ones. I'll position them in a second. That one's a little funky. Try again. See, I was rushing. I was daydreaming. My mind had wandered off. There we go. Oh. Apparently it did. There we go. And one more for good measure. Circle. There we go. All right, let's, oh yeah, we also have, well, I've got one more thing to do. Let me get these in position. All right, we've got kind of this little shape. Can be here. I'll put one right here. That one can go here. Like it matters, but just artfully arrange them. And then this little guy can just go right here. Bubbles, you know. I think that's good. Remember, we have a hole right here. And I like to put a little piece of wire right around that hole, because if we don't, the bail is gonna, you know, the bail is gonna be hanging right like that. And it could chip the glass as it's, you know, swinging on that. So if you put a little tiny piece of, it also just makes it look a little bit more finished. We're going to do a little circle to cover the bail. And I wonder if I have one already. That one's a little, that's not bad. Let's go ahead and, well, actually this one works perfect. See, it's a little bit bigger, which is fine. I'm going to put a little bit on the inside. And we'll just set that right there. There we go. That's going to be for the bail. All right, well, our wires are done. One at a time we did them, and look how lovely they are. We are ready to move on to the next stage, which is to counter enamel this piece. We're going to put some enamel on the back. We're going to put some enamel on the front, and we're going to move all these wires over onto this piece and fire them. So we're actually going to start the enameling process next, which is super fun, and I hope you will join me for the next step of this wondrous tutorial. Thanks for watching this first part of the tutorial on YouTube. It is free. The first part is, and if you would like to continue with this tutorial and get the load on how we're going to get these wires over there, melt some glass, get some colors, some blending going, I would encourage you to visit my Vimeo on demand page. I will have the remaining 2 parts of the video. Maybe it's going to be 1 part. I don't even know yet. Will all be available on Vimeo on demand / Sandra McEwen. And yes, it won't be free, but it won't cost but a couple of bucks. So if you've enjoyed it this far, why don't you head on over to Vimeo and check in there and get the remaining part. Anyway, thank you so much for supporting me on YouTube, and I will continue, I promise, to be doing lots of free stuff here on YouTube as well. But Vimeo on demand, if you want to go the extra mile. It would be delightful if you would support me in that way. Anyway, so thanks so much, and I'll see you over there.